Hello, welcome to the Beachcomber Meditation Podcast. So I'm Heather Regan-Addis and I'm here with my dear friend Tracy Connor. And this session, Tracy's going to be asking me about my work as a chaplain in the National Health Service. So over to you, Tracy.
Hello, Heather. How are you?
I'm all right, actually. Yeah, I'm doing
Good,
fine. Yeah.
good,
Mm.
good, good.
How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, good to be here with you. And I'm really interested in hearing your answers to these questions as well. So, Heather, what was your journey into chaplaincy?
Well, this is an interesting one because it's a real example of how, something that's really challenging can lead to something that's really amazing. So I had a friend who suffered two quite significant bereavements and was struggling with like complex grief and was very angry. And I was really trying to help to be helpful, but everything I did was the wrong thing. And this friendship sadly came to an end, and it was quite messy um, in my personal life, but also in my work life. And so I just thought, well, I need to learn more about bereavement and grief so that I, can navigate it. And also, I was beginning to teach the Living Well to Die Well course as well. So I thought, well, so I just looked on the internet, as you do, and one of the things that came up was a course in chaplaincy and pastoral care, postgraduate. Well, it was a master's degree in chaplaincy and pastoral care. And I thought, oh, I can't do that, because I'm not a Christian. Anyway, I looked into it and I thought, oh, actually, I can do this. And the organisation, the Mindfulness Association, were willing to fund the training. So I enrolled on this postgraduate diploma, well, master's degree initially. I didn't do the full master's in the end, but I did a postgraduate diploma. And I thought, so I enrolled on this. And I was told that I need a placement in a chaplaincy department the following summer. So I thought, oh, okay, I've got time to work that out. And then they said, oh, no, no, you need one right away. And I thought, oh, my goodness. And they said, you won't get one. So I phoned around the local hospitals, chaplaincy departments, and a guy called Tony Brooks, who was the lead chaplain, who still is the lead chaplain at Hull Royal Infirmary, he said, yeah, yeah, come along and have a chat and we'll see. So he gave me a placement. It was a 200-hour placement. So it's quite a significant kind of piece of work. And, they showed me what to do. And I was in my course, I was kind of reflecting on my experience and learning how to be a chaplain. And at the end of that time, there was a job available. So I applied for that job and I was fortunate enough to get it. And so I was then working a couple of days a week in the NHS as a hospital chaplain. So, which, it's one of those pinch yourself moments because I think for a long time it's something that an area I would have been really interested to work in, but I didn't think that it was a place that a Buddhist could go. But of course, in a hospital, there's people with lots of different religions, and they have to cater to everybody. So chaplaincy has been really opening up. Traditionally, it's been very Christian, but it's been opening up. And of course, half the population of the UK now don't have specific religious beliefs. They might be spiritual in some way. So a big part of the work is pastoral and supporting people in their spirituality, whatever that may be. So I ended up with as I say, a postgraduate diploma in chaplaincy, and I worked at Hull for a couple of years. Then I worked in York Hospital, and now I'm working. Gradually, I've moved closer and closer to home. So now I work in Bridlington and Scarborough hospitals. So Bridlington's sort of 10, 15 minutes away, and Scarborough's 35, 40 minutes away. So I work on the east coast of Yorkshire in those two hospitals. And also that we look after the local hospice and a few other hospitals as well, the smaller ones in the area. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that's how something wonderful, because I love the work. Something wonderful came out of something really challenging, and I think that's something I've learned over the years. When some shit hits a fan, there's
Mm,
like an initial but then
yeah,
okay, where's the jewel in this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So why did you want to be a chaplain? So I can see how it came about, but what motivates you? What motivated you to want to be a chaplain in terms of, what is the want there?
Well, I mean, it's like when the first time I saw Rob Nairn teaching meditation, I sat there and I thought, God, that's got to be the coolest job in the world.
Mm,
I didn't really know very much about it, but that was my initial wow, I'd love to do that, and thinking that I would never be able to do that in a million years. And it was a similar thing, I think. I thought, wow, that's such a cool job.
mm,
Um, I'd love to do it, kind of thing, but I won't be able to. Um, and So I think that was the initial drive. But then um, it's all about helping people. It's all about helping people in the most difficult moments of their life. They've come into hospital, they maybe got some kind of really big diagnosis, or their life is going to be limited from now onwards in a way that it wasn't before. Or sometimes people are dying, and just it's such a privilege to be able to be there and you know just be present with people and talk to them and listen to them. It's a lot about listening, and hopefully leave them feeling a little bit better and a bit more clear in their minds about what's happening than they were when you arrived. And when I first started, I'd never worked in a hospital environment before, because I was quite worried that I wouldn't be able to tolerate some of the distressing things that I would see. But actually, I can. And I think that's a lot down to my practice. And also, I'm actually able to be with people in the most distressing moments of their life. And I can do that, and it doesn't um, it doesn't adversely affect me too much. It's something that I can actually do. So, like, why wouldn't you do it?
mm, mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, so you talk about being with people at, that when they're at the most vulnerable and going through such difficulty. What role do you think silence and simply being present play in your chaplaincy work when you're with these people?
yeah. I think simply being present. I think being present is really important. Um, and holding a space for somebody to talk. So kind of me staying quiet really, and just holding a space for somebody else to talk. People don't get that, and they don't. But it's a real luxury, I find, for you to have someone's whole attention, so someone's completely listening to you with kind of openness and empathy. Um, I think that's just incredibly well. It's incredibly healing, but also it's people feel safe. So often I go and sit with somebody, and we start with a bit of chit chat, and then we might talk about their journey, the health journey that they're on, and I'll talk about maybe, what is it that keeps you going, and then the conversation can go very deep very quickly, and people are telling you about some of the deepest worries and cares, and um, yeah, and it's the presence, it's the attention, it's the well, I would say God comes into the room, or Buddha nature comes into the room. So in some of those moments anyway, that you're totally present, and it's like it's a bit like when you're teaching mindfulness well. You're totally present, and your sense of self is off to one side. So you're not concerned about your egocentric concerns that you normally have. There's a space there for something to come through you that you might call Buddha nature, or you might call God, depending on what kind of religion you're in. You might call it infinite awareness, but it's like something else happens. Something else has the opportunity to manifest, and that's a very healing presence. And particularly when you're talking to somebody who has also connected with that through their own spiritual or religious practice, that I think that then becomes like a mutual experience. um, and kind of they recognize that, and that helps them to feel safe to share and
Mm.
to talk and to heal. But a lot of it is just authentic human connection. You know, often we're talking about, you know, where they've been on holiday, or we're talking about their grandchildren. We're talking about dogs. We do talk about dogs a lot. If people are dog people, we always get onto dogs. Um, and you know, that authentic human connection is also, I think, really healing and missing a lot. In a hospital, you know, I think the staff are incredible and they really do their best. But often the nursing staff are under such time pressure. They don't have the time to be able to sit down and really engage and listen. And that's one
Mm.
of the amazing privileges about being a chaplain, is that we do have the time. We're not, you know, we have as much time as is needed to have this conversation and see where it goes. And, you know, I mean, often it's 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes it's, you know, up to an hour that you spend with somebody, depending on what's needed. But often it's, I would say on average, probably about 10, 15 minutes. And we have an interaction um, yeah, and it's really interesting because you you'll only see somebody once,
Mm.
so you just don't know, you know, like how that, you know, you occasionally get to see people repeatedly, but sometimes you just get to see people once, and you have this like really fascinating interaction with them, where such a deep connection, and then you never see them again. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's lovely. It's rather beautiful. Yeah.
it's such a privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I'm a nurse. I work with
Mm,
people with cancer, and I can totally relate to that. And I remember reading something once about how people know when you're present.
yeah,
They can feel the difference when you are there with them fully.
yeah.
It's like you're listening to them with your whole being.
Mm,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's almost like something comes through you. It's making me feel goose pimply now, thinking
mm,
about, those experiences that I've had. And it really is a privilege, isn't it? It really is.
mm,
Yeah. And just sitting there quietly
yeah,
and then waiting for that person to
mm,
just say something.
yeah,
And because it's not a normal way of conversation, is it? But that, like you say, it very rarely happens that somebody experiences that. But giving them that presence to just share how they're feeling and
mhm,
open up. And
mhm,
like you say, you might never see them again,
mm,
but I know that that will have had a profound effect on them. I really do.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I love about working in a hospital, and you know, in this country, we're so focused on what's going wrong and what's negative.
Mm,
And what I love about working in a hospital is the care and the love that you see happening. You know, the staff that care for the patients who are gracefully receiving that care and are really grateful, the love that the patients have for their families, that the families have that are coming and visiting the patients. It's like the whole of the place is filled with love. I mean, there's lots of other things happening as well, but
mm,
I think that, you know, we run a risk in the world in these days in really over focusing on all the negative things and thinking that everything is wrong and everything is broken and that people are selfish and that they don't care. Like, that's been one of the most amazing things about working in the hospital. That kind of has been totally turned on its head for me. And I just see how human beings are just, you know, they have so much love in them. And in those moments of crisis, that love really comes out. Yeah, you must see that in your job too.
yeah, absolutely. And what comes to mind as you're talking is, it's our common humanity. You know, we have more the same than we have different. And it's that interconnectedness, how we're all connected.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's lovely. It really is. So next question. How has your chaplaincy work changed your spiritual or religious beliefs? I'm quite curious to hear the answer to this.
Yeah, well, they've changed a lot actually. I mean, partly it's been my chaplaincy work. So I just have worked with some amazing Christians, um, chaplains who, you know, a lot of the chaplains that a lot of the Christian chaplains, that often they're in chaplaincy because, you know, the kind of rules and regulations required in parish life are not for them, you know. So often they're kind of more open, and they're used to like ministering to religious people, non-religious people, people of different religions. So generally they're open. And I met some wonderful Christians who really kind of walk their talk, you know, and I really respect them. And I've done a lot of praying with Christians as well. So I've done a lot of praying with Christian colleagues. I've done a lot of praying with Christian patients. And experientially, what I find is what they connect to and would call Christ or God or Holy Spirit is exactly the same thing that I connect to and would call Buddha nature or infinite loving awareness. So and at the same time as I've been working in chaplaincy, I've been following the teacher Rupert Spira, and he teaches the non-dual approach, but from lots of different religious perspectives he draws upon. And you know, this has really kind of impacted my religious and spiritual beliefs, and also having become um, what's the word? So not liking some of the hierarchy and some of the dogma that I found in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Um, and this idea that you've got to do years and years and years of stuff and jump through all these hoops before you're able to be in a position to recognize your Buddha nature. And
Mm.
Rupert Spira doesn't teach that. He teaches enlightenment is here and now in every moment. And actually, that's my experience. I had a great experience when I was teaching mindfulness years ago, really close to the beginning of my mindfulness teaching, where I went to my teacher, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, and said, I can't do this. And he said to me, you don't have to do that. I'll do it. I'll do it through you. Um, and and so I allowed that to happen. And that was a really big lesson for me, that it's not me that's doing it, it's something else. And I've noticed that in my mindfulness teaching, that it's like we were talking, something just comes through you. And I noticed that in my chaplaincy work, it's not me that's doing it, something else is coming through you. So my religious beliefs now are a bit, I would say, Buddhist Christian, Christian Buddhist. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot in Christianity, and particularly the Christian contemplative traditions.
Yeah.
And it's all very similar with what we teach, what we've been taught in Tantric Buddhism and Vedanta. So kind of different routes to the same thing at the top of the mountain. And recently I have been sitting with the Quakers. Um,
Yeah.
so, you know, and the Quakers' belief is that, you know, God's in everybody, or Buddha nature's in everybody. And, well, particularly for the Quakers, God's in everybody. And you sit in silence, and it comes through you. And
Yes.
you know, the Quakers aren't bothered if you're a Buddhist or
No.
whether you're a Christian. You know, you can come and sit with them. So yeah, so that's quite a big change, but very experiential. So like letting go of a lot of the rules and regulations and the dogma, and trusting experience of meditation practice, experience of teaching practice, experience of being with patients, and those kind of conversations, and being in prayer with other Christians.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's been rather a wonderful kind of unfolding and coming together of different causes and conditions. Yeah.
Well, that's really lovely to hear, and yeah, and I'm not surprised by your answer because
Mm.
I think, yeah, through my different experience of my in my path with different faiths, and
Yes.
this is what I've come to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you, Heather. It's been
Mm.
lovely to hear about your chaplaincy role. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Thank you for asking those questions and giving me the opportunity to talk about this. And so here we are at the end of another episode of the Beachcomber Meditation podcast with Tracy Connor and Heather Regan Addis. And we'll be sending you another podcast episode sometime soon.